Okay, so I will go ahead and get started. Adaptivo version 2.1 really transforms EPID data into actionable insights, building efficiency and confidence for your adaptive therapy insights. So it really is designed to future-proof QA, turning your high-resolution EPID data into actionable insights that can help you as physicists or clinicians work more efficiently while maintaining confidence in your treatment quality for every fraction. The version 2.2 platform has been completely re-engineered into a modular, scalable architecture, and this makes it faster for us to adapt to evolving workflows, which are happening very quickly in the clinic these days, and expand with new capabilities. This version adds RayStation integration, and so it allows Adaptivo to now connect seamlessly in a modern vendor-neutral environment, ensuring that your QA solution grows with the clinic's technology, not against it. So, uh, really exciting to be able to offer version 2.2. So Adaptivo is truly a future-ready solution that is built not only for what's happening now in your clinic in radiation therapy quality assurance, but what's coming, what's next. It streamlines QA for advanced treatments like SRS, SBRT, and the emerging adaptive workflows that we're seeing now, um, saving physicists really valuable time. It's already aligned with AAPM TG 307 recommendations. If you haven't had a chance to look at that, there is a webinar. Myself and my colleague Shannon Holmes, who was actually on the task group, did probably almost a year ago now. So you can go back and look through our webinar links for that. But also you can download the report from the AAPM website. So it's a very comprehensive report that reviews current in vivo EPID technology and gives recommendations on software and how to commission that kind of system. So this allows really clinics to prepare for efficiencies that are also coming through new MPPG groups. So MPPG 20 is a group that's currently in the works, and it's working on providing guidelines and recommendations for streamlining and making your quality assurance more meaningful and valuable and save time. They are really promoting for these kind of quality assurance tasks to be more integrated into your standard workflow. So that's something that Adaptivo we are actively addressing. So most importantly, though, Adaptivo really transforms your EPID dosimetry data into actionable insights. It helps you detect setup and delivery and anatomy changes, and really empowers clinicians to make faster, more confident treatment decisions in near real time. So Adaptivo brings quality assurance into the treatment room with daily exit dose tracking. So no longer is our quality assurance checks just done on a pre-treatment basis without the patient in consideration. Now we can bring it into the treatment room to really give valuable insights. So by using the EPID while the patient is on the couch, we're just not checking machine output, we're capturing the entire treatment process. So this means we can catch things like setup errors, delivery deviations, or even changes in patient anatomy. And I will go through several examples kind of touching on each one of these issues. Clinicians have two powerful modes to work in within Adaptivo. One is called predicted mode, which compares the treatment against the adaptive beam model within Adaptivo. And we also have a relative mode, which looks at treatment images against a previous reference image. So you can see and track over time what's going on with that patient. So together, these really provide a complete picture of consistency and accuracy across fractions, giving physicists and physicians actionable insights and really saving valuable time and ensuring quality for the patient. So I want to just kind of give a high view overview of how Adaptivo and our other patient QA suite products fit into your workflow. Because as I said, the trend moving forward will be to have more QA integrated into the natural workflow for the patient. And this is more efficient in detecting errors throughout this whole process, as well as alleviating some of the QA burden that is falling on physicists now and adding more value at the same time. So, of course, when a patient comes into radiation oncology and they start with their treatment, they always start in the treatment planning phase with CT simulation, anatomy contouring, and then we get an approved dosimetry plan. So once the dosimetry plan is approved, that's when the quality assurance steps kick into gear. Of course, still required is a secondary plan check, but more and more with very technical and complicated plans with high dose gradients and high doses, small fields, we need more robust secondary check plan solutions. And that's because we're pushing our treatment planning system a lot harder. So we could be pushing it in ways that potentially surface issues or discrepancies within your treatment planning system and model. So we offer a Monte Carlo based secondary plan check that is a great robustness check of your commissioning model and your treatment planning system, as well as your plan checks that are coming out for every single patient. This is especially useful in adaptive workflows. Once a secondary check is complete, then it's in general, complex plans are required to have a pre-treatment QA check. This is done without the patient in place, and Adaptivo allows you to do that just using the existing technology you have. You're using the high-resolution EPID panel that you already have. This can be easily delivered, potentially even by the therapist, so it saves after-hours setup time of a device by the physicist. We all know that physicists, you're being pulled in many directions these days. And so being able to incorporate this into your clinical workflow during your treatment day is really, really valuable. I haven't actually showed it in this particular slide, but we also have LinacView, which is our log file based software solution that goes hand in hand with Adaptivo. And so at the same time, if you had both, which some of our customers do, you could also look at machine performance. So if there's any issues with machine performance that affect the dosimetry, you would see it that way as well. And then you can also dive into the details. We have, I've done previous webinars on LinacView, so if you want more information on that, you're welcome to search for that webinar or reach out to your salesperson. I'd be happy to give you a demo on that. Of course, all of our patient QA solutions really hinge on the fact that they are automated. The analysis is automated. Once the information is exported from the planning system at this point, Adaptivo will automatically grab that information and compare it once the EPID panel delivery is complete. If there are issues, you can set up email alerts within the system so that you are immediately alerted if there's something you need to follow up on. And that's even more important as your plate is very full. So physicists don't have time to be looking for issues. We need to have automated alerts in place where these issues automatically rise to the surface, so you can then focus accordingly. If everything looks good with the pre-treatment QA, though, it's ready for delivery. Traditionally, this is where the QA stopped in terms of dosimetric measurements. Maybe you put a MOSFET or something on the patient just for a quick point check, but that really told you very little. So in this case, really it was just down to weekly checks and again, searching for issues, looking at CBCT alignment, trying to decide, is there something that maybe we need to look into that changed with this patient that might affect the dosimetry. So all of this was not, is more trying to dig deep rather than things rising to the surface. So with Adaptivo as well as LinacView, they go hand in hand all through treatment delivery. So every fraction you're getting information about how that treatment was delivered, how it compared back to what the treatment plan beam model says it should be, or again, like I said, you can do it to a reference fraction if you like as well. So in this case, once the treatment delivery is complete, both Adaptivo and LINAC-V will automatically grab that treatment delivery information and it'll do an evaluation. So for Adaptivo, every single field it will acquire an exit transit dosimetry image, and it will do a gamma analysis with what that predicted image should be or compared to a baseline reference image. And if everything is good, you have green, you get no alerts, you know that's good, and it will create a report for you on either on a daily or weekly basis, however you want to have that set up. If there is something that disagrees, you will get an alert, and that'll be emailed to you. You can then dive in deeper to that data to evaluate. So very likely the first thing you're going to want to evaluate is patient setup. Was the patient set up correctly? Say, especially if this was on the first fraction. Maybe there's something that the therapist didn't quite get right with the alignment, and you're seeing it as a dosimetric difference in your transit image. So this type of proactive patient setup evaluation really allows the therapist to take an active role in that part of the quality assurance, and they could make adjustments to fix that issue for the next fraction. And I'll show you an example where that's the case. Now, if everything looks good with the patient setup, then the clinician's physics and physician may want to dive in a little deeper and figure out, first is from a physics perspective, if you have LINAC-V, is the LINAC delivery correct? Or is there something that's a leaf lag or something that's affecting the dosimetry? But if you don't get an alert with LINAC-V, you can be rest assured that the machine's performing right. And now you can focus on, well, what's going on with this patient? They're set up right, but maybe something's changed with the anatomy. So this allows you to dive in deeper with more of an adaptive therapy evaluation. And again, I'll show you an example of that moving forward. So the first example is courtesy of Dr. Paul Redoff. He is in Metz, France. He's a longtime Adaptivo user. And their current practices are to use in vivo EPID dosimetry for their RMRT and their VMAT patients. And they acquire an integrated portal imaging at the first treatment session for all patients. And then for some patients, they do it for every fraction. Now, each clinic really needs to kind of evaluate their own gamma index criteria. So in this case, for head and necks, the clinic is using a gamma criteria of 3%, 3 millimeters, with a pass rate over 95%. For their breast, they use 5%, 3 millimeters, gamma pass rate greater than 90%, and everything else kind of falls under the 5%, 3 millimeters, gamma pass rate greater than 95%. If a patient fails, the investigation includes, like I mentioned, first patient positioning evaluation, an adaptive evaluation, meaning did something change with patient anatomy. They do look at LINAC log file analysis with LINAC-V because they have both of those solutions. And then also a plan analysis in the treatment planning system, kind of going back to the root cause. And I will show you an example where that was the case and Adaptivo revealed there was an issue with the plan itself. So it's kind of very interesting. So this case I'm reviewing here is a head and neck squamous cell carcinoma case. It was an integrated boost 54, 66, and 33 fractions. The plan consisted of 2 full VMAT arcs, and for daily imaging, they used daily IGRT with 2 orthogonal KV images to evaluate setup. The immobilization device was a 5 points head, neck, and shoulders mask. One thing to note, and we'll see the ramifications of this in this example, but the patient was stressed during the CT and her shoulders were tense. And this isn't unusual for patients when they're first coming into the workflow in radiation oncology. They're quite nervous. And of course, with that nervousness comes usually tenseness. In contrast, by the time she came for her treatment, she had gotten to know the staff. She was much more relaxed for treatment, and her position changed. So I'll show you. So here's the gamma analysis results for fraction 1. So again, this is 2 arcs. You can see both have failed. We have red gamma analysis warnings, and you can see where it's failing is in the inferior portion for each overlay. You can see that, so kind of at the base of the neck. And what ended up coming out of this was the therapist realized that they kind of overlooked the clavicle misalignment. They were truly focused on the spine alignment. And my years in the clinic, I feel like these head and neck setups can be the most challenging because that tends to happen, where you can kind of get over focused on one area and not on another. And so what they did is they made sure they focused on correcting the setup for fraction 2. And here they did a little bit better. The gamma analysis passed for one of the arcs, but it did fail for the second arc. And looking more closely again at the overlay, there was still a slight misalignment of the clavicle on the patient's right side. So the therapist, again, kept fine-tuning their setup, and so they did get it to a point where the gamma analysis passed the criteria. However, looking at it more closely, empowering therapists with information to let them know how they need to correct, they will rise to the challenge. So in this case, even though it passed, they did see that there was still a small area of disagreement. Inferior, you can see the red on the overlay, and they really wanted to hone in and proactively correct that. And so for the fraction 4, by the time they got to fraction 4, the patient setup was 100% optimized. The gamma hotspots were eliminated. And this is also great feedback for the patient as well, because they can get a sense of feeling like what feels right as well. But more so for the therapist, that they really know what the potential of the good setup is for for a particular patient. Without Adaptivo, I don't think that these would really probably be caught, or the therapist wouldn't be as empowered to be able to hone in on fine tuning as much as they did here. So it's an excellent example for that. My second example is looking at a palliative spine case. It was 20 gray and 5 fractions. It was treated with 2 full arcs. They did daily IGRT again with 2 orthogonal KV images. There's no specific positioning accessory for this particular patient. What a little backstory is the CT was acquired for 4D, taking respiratory motion into account. However, they should have, for the planning CT, created an average projection, intensity projection CT data set. And as you can see through Adaptivo EPID results, that wasn't the case. So when it came to fraction 1, the gamma analysis failed at 5%, 3 millimeters. And you can see the failure, again, in this case, was an inferior region. Looking at, you are able to look at profiles through any point of the gamma agreement. So here you can see it showing like inferior to superior, left to right, and there is a deviation that's happening in the inferior region. You can see it's an underdose. So the portal imager in that region is seeing less dose than anticipated, which in turn means there's more dose being deposited within the patient compared to what is expected from the treatment plan. So this prompted a CBCT acquisition prior to the second fraction to assess the deviation. And what they found here from the CBCT is that it showed density changes from the diaphragm movement. But now the planning CT on the left does not show those same density changes. And what was discovered in this case is the planning CT ended up being derived from a phased-based CT reconstruction rather than the intended AIP CT planning image. So that resulted in the density not being correctly reflecting what was actually happening on the treatment machine. So Adaptivo really allowed clinicians to see the dosimetric impact on the lower treatment volume because of this. So I don't really believe, in my mind, there's probably not too many other ways that this would be detected. If you did a pre-treatment QA of this plan on a phantom, you're not going to see those density differences. So this is only something that can be seen doing QA with the patient involved in the QA process. In this case, the plan was revised using the average intensity projection scan, and the final 3 fractions passed the gamma agreement. So again, the clinicians themselves believe that they would not have identified this issue without the use of the Adaptivo in vivo module. And given that this is, we're dealing with the spine here, and this is a high dose fraction, we want to be confident that we are not overdosing or underdosing those areas. So Adaptivo did its job there. And the last but not least, the last clinical example is showing how Adaptivo can help identify clinically relevant anatomy changes. So this is a case where it's a lung and mediastinum treatment. There's 4-arc VMAT plan. The image here, I'm showing a registration view, and this is a CBCT kind of well into treatment. But you can see here that you have the initial anatomy outlines from the planning CT overlaid on the CBCT. And you can see from the green body contour, the original contour is larger, so the patient has lost weight. We can also see that the lung contour on the patient's right is smaller than what would be contoured now. So there was fluid in the lungs when the patient had their original planning CT, and now that fluid has cleared. There does appear to be some tumor regression as well. One thing I need to point out, or I'd like to point out, is that at least in the physicians I was in practice with, they tended to turn off all the contours when they're evaluating CBCT alignment on when the patient's on the table prior to treatment. They turn off most all contours except for the tumor. So in this case, it wouldn't really be, visible to them or in their sight line that there were these anatomy changes. They may just be focusing in on the tumor and kind of just making sure it's in the target. So this isn't something that I would say a standard physician review of CBCT right prior to treatment would necessarily catch. Now, maybe a physicist during a weekly chart check might catch this. I used to try to look in and look at these things, look at their weight loss and turn on these contours on, but that's not guaranteed. People have different processes, different levels of experience in knowing what to look for. But Adaptivo takes all that subjectivity and makes it more proactive and automated. So this is showing some trending results. So just to kind of orient you, there are 4 beams here, so we can see results. Each row is a beam, an arc. And each column is showing the average gamma result for that arc for each week. So you can see here that for the first 5 weeks, at least everything looked good. The trending graph, everything seemed quite consistent from 1 week to the next. However, starting week 6, even though all the individual gamma results are still passing, they are starting to trend down. So this trending is really can be a valuable early indicator of something shifting within a patient to kind of keep an eye. And so maybe on the following week, you might want to kind of look at this on a daily basis and see what's happening just to follow up. And on average for the following week, we did see a failure starting to occur in 1 of the 4 arcs. And then by the next week after that, 3 out of the 4 were failing or in the warning. So this prompted an evaluation of the delivery itself, and they did realize that there were hotter areas due to changes in the patient anatomy because of the tumor regression and weight loss. So that meant, again, more radiation was exiting the patient. So less radiation was being deposited, or it wasn't being deposited in the areas that we thought. So for this particular patient, when they looked at the profiles, they saw the same thing. Predicted was far less than measured. And what they did is they proactively started the patient on their boost earlier than intended. So again, all 3 of these examples show kind of the value of Adaptivo for patient setup, for plan evaluation, and for anatomy change evaluation. And clinics were able to be reactive quite quickly and improve the quality of each patient's treatment. So really, Adaptivo does truly leverage your EPID technology, provides you data and automation to ensure optimal treatment quality for all your patients for every fraction. It really enhances setup accuracy. Again, allows you to truly evaluate your treatment plan in a way that pre-treatment QA alone cannot do, pre-treatment QA in a phantom. And then you can see quick dose impact identification for any anatomy changes or setup issues. So truly is a wonderful automated system that takes your QA to the next level. And as I mentioned, as the technology and treatment regimens are changing so quickly in radiation oncology, I truly believe this is the way of the future to integrate it into the workflows that you already have existing in your clinic. So now that I'm at the end, I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, Vicki, it looks like we have a question. I can read it off to you here. Does Adaptivo connect well with the new Titan file security with ARIA 18?
Let's see, I'm looking back. I'm not exactly sure what that's referring to, but our ARIA customers now are able to use Adaptivo without an issue, so I don't think that's an issue, but I will look into that. Let's see. I see another question. Can we use Adaptivo without LINAC-View? Yes, you don't need to use it with LINAC-View. We offer modular solutions for our customers, so you don't have to buy our full suite, but each package complements each other. So again, without LINAC-View, you maybe don't have as much insight into the actual effect of treatment delivery, the machine performance side of things. Also, LINAC-View does do a great job of connecting anything kind of back to your machine QAs. To me, I see it as a great link between patient QA and machine QA. So you can kind of be more proactive with any issues that you start seeing creep into your machine delivery. Maybe you got a lagging leaf or something, and you're able to be reactive to that before it comes to a point where it's making a machine fault or taking a machine down. All right, are there any other questions?
I saw one come through. Do you apply a gamma threshold for low doses in your analysis, 10%?
Yes, you can customize that however you want. That's configurable by the customer.
Perfect, thank you. And one more. Can Adaptivo be used for pre-treatment QA with hyper treatments on the TrueBeam, and is it accurate?
Yes, you can do it with it. We do have a pre-treatment QA module. So it's just the same as deploying your EPID panel without the patient in place, so the table is not in place, and you just treat your EPID panel. And yes, it's highly accurate. The one nice thing about using your EPID panel for that is you gain the high resolution and sensitivity of your EPID panel. So if you are using small fields, high dose gradients, you're able to capture that within your data. Rather than, it's always been a challenge with some of the QA devices is these detectors take up space, and you're always limited by the volume of the detector and the spacing between detectors.
That's all I'm seeing.
All right. Well, if anybody else has other questions, feel free to reach out to me, Vicki Howard at standardimaging.com. I'd be happy to answer your questions, or we can arrange a demo of any of our software. Thank you so much.